What's up you guys, Sasha here, and today we're going to talk about the 10 places your money needs to go the moment it hits your bank account. Now, for the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that everyone gets paid once a month towards the end of the month. That probably doesn't apply to a large portion of you where you might be getting paid daily, weekly, every 2 weeks, whatever it is. Just make the necessary adjustments. The general principles of what we're going to talk about generally apply to everybody. Now, the first thing on our list is going to be pension contributions, and technically speaking this is a little bit of a cheat because they come out of your salary in most cases for lots of people before it actually hits your bank account. After recent legal changes, employers are legally obliged to enroll every single employee into a company pension scheme, and this will apply to you if you have a regular job where you're actually working for a company for somebody else as an employee. Now, there are two important things to remember about contributing to your pension from your paycheck before you actually get paid. The first is that you're contributing from the pre-tax salary, which means whatever you're contributing, the actual impact on your take-home pay is going to be considerably less. So that's a pretty good thing because you're actually winning in terms of tax every single time you contribute, and the minimum you have to contribute to be part of these schemes following some of the recent changes is 5%. So that means 5% of your salary has to go towards your pension pot. The second thing that has to happen is your employer has to then top up your contribution, and the minimum requirement is 3%, although many companies will offer you a little bit more than that depending on how much you contribute yourself. Now, technically you can opt out of being in one of these pension schemes the moment your employer enrolls you, but you would be doing yourself a massive disadvantage because of the two things I just mentioned. First, you're able to put money aside into an effective retirement plan, savings account, whatever it is, pre-tax before you actually have to pay tax on it, which is a huge benefit, and then you can manage it over the course of your lifetime before you retire by investing it in various things, and some of these things can actually yield pretty good returns. So actually you're allowed to invest without having to pay the money first, which is a great advantage. The second piece is you will miss out on all of those contributions that your employer is making if you don't make those contributions yourself. So that is a double whammy, and you're actually going to be losing out on a whole lot of money by opting out. It might seem like a great win in the short term. In the long term, it is a real big negative. So make sure that you contribute into your pension whatever your budget allows. It is impossible to overstate the importance of contributing to your pension in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, because the earlier you start making larger contributions, the much more of an impact you will notice it by the time you come to retirement. So make sure you start contributing in your 20s, make sure you continue contributing through your 30s, 40s and so on. Make sure you contribute as much as you possibly can, because this will really help you when you are approaching retirement age. Now, once the money does hit your bank account, what is the first thing that you should be spending money on? Now, there's a few contenders here. You might be saying, hey, I need to repay debt, I might be paying taxes, but actually the most important thing that you need to spend money on is the necessities that allow you to live your life.
It is about priorities.
Now, this might seem in some way controversial because a lot of people will tell you that you need to pay a bunch of other stuff first, and then after you've paid everybody else, you then get to live and survive on whatever money is left over. The issue is people overstate the importance of making all these other payments and understate the importance of you being able to physically live. Now, by the necessities, I don't mean anything that you regularly spend money on. I literally mean only 4 things. And the 4 things are: 1, food; 2, somewhere to live, and we're talking your mortgage or your rent payment; 3, key utilities, so we're talking things like gas, electricity, water; 4 is transport, so if it's your own car, make sure you can pay for petrol, make sure you have the money to pay for your car insurance so you can legally use it. If you use some other form of transport, make sure you assign the money for that right at the beginning. Once you've done those and you can remain certain that you are able to make it through to the end of the month, the next most important thing to spend money on is debt servicing. Now, this is just the bare minimum you need to pay to all the various forms of debt that you have to keep them rolling. So on a credit card, this would be the minimum monthly payment. On a loan, this would be the whatever monthly payment and no overpayments above that. On everything else, it's the bare minimum that you can get away with. The reason why I'm advocating you do this is not because it's a good idea to continue always paying the minimum. It is because there is a few things that are more important than making overpayments in your debt that we're going to cover just in a second. Maintaining your debt payments is crucial to making sure that you don't get into any kind of serious financial trouble, to prevent you from losing the place you live, to prevent you from losing any other assets you hold. So make sure you at least do that before you do other things. Now, once you've made the repayments for the debt, The next thing you need to pay are taxes. I know we're talking about the UK and we're not in the US, it's not the same kind of system, but there's still a few things that you need to remember to pay. A lot of people will find that they're paying three broad taxes on a regular basis. One is council tax. The second one is your vehicle excise duty, commonly known as car tax or vehicle tax, whatever it is. And the third one is the TV license, which is called a TV license, but generally speaking, it's kind of like a tax.
Because everyone is pretty much legally mandated to pay it unless they don't own a TV set that can technically tune into the BBC.
So it's basically a government tax. Making sure that you're paying your tax on time is crucial to prevent you from getting into serious legal trouble, and is much more important than making sure that your debt repayments are a bit faster, making sure that you're able to pay for some nice to haves or anything else like that. Now we've got to number 5, and you're probably thinking, well, this is probably the place where we're beginning to repay the debt. Now, not so quickly. I'm a big proponent of getting your debt payments in as early as possible, but there's one more thing you need to pay first, and that is essential spending that is not part of the necessities that we've covered a little bit earlier. Now, these are things that you don't really absolutely have to have in order to be able to survive, in order to be able to live, but they're still pretty important. Now, essential spending will be different for everybody because everyone has different priorities, different situations, different needs, but generally speaking, we're talking about things like your mobile phone bill, your childcare needs so that you can go out to work and go out and earn money and do all that. For some people, you might have examples like contact lenses that you're paying a monthly amount to have delivered. Those types of things, which are not really luxury items, they're not kind of nice fun things, they're generally important things for you to live on, but they're not absolutely necessary. They come at this point. Now we've got to number 6. Now is the point where we're going to be doing debt repayments, and by debt repayments I mean anything above the minimum payments that we've already covered earlier. So this is the bit where once you've done your budgeting and you know exactly what you can afford to make repayments of on top of those towards various debts that you have, here is the point where we're going to be making those payments. Now, there are 3 broad ways that people make these payments. The most popular method of repaying debt, and probably by far the worst one, is called the snowball method. Now, it's advocated by lots of gurus. People say that it's really good mentally. I strongly disagree with that point, but hey, apparently it does work for some people, so I'll mention it here anyway. The snowball method works just simply on clearing the smallest sized debt first, irrespective of anything else. So if you have a big balance which is costing you a huge amount of money in terms of interest, and a much smaller balance which is paying very little interest or no interest, this method will advocate that you clear the small balance first so that that debt goes away. In your mind, you're more clear about being able to repay your debts because you've got one less debt on your plate, and people are saying that that helps you get out of your debt more quickly. Now, if you're a bit more organized and not quite so slapdash, this will not hold true because you're going to be doing yourself a massive disservice by repaying much cheaper debts before you're covering the much more expensive debts, and therefore in total you will waste considerably more money on interest. The next method of repaying debt quickly is a slight variation. It's considerably better. It is the one where you're paying the debt that is costing you the most in cash flow every single month. Now, I much prefer this method to the first one because this is a genuine cash flow benefit to your budgeting. So if you say you have a credit card where your monthly payment is £47 and you have a loan where your monthly payment is £320, you prioritize the loan because the moment you've repaid the loan, the amount of disposable income you have increases disproportionately greater than if you're repaying the credit card, and therefore you're able to then take that money and apportion to various other debts and prioritize your spending better, more quickly. It's still not as good as the third method, and the third method is paying the highest rate interest product first. Now, this is often called the avalanche method. It is absolutely far and away the best way to manage your finances. If you have any choice, if you have any kind of control over your finances and you don't have impulsive spending habits, make sure you go and do that because this will save you money. This will be the fastest way to get out of debt. I have a separate video where I talk exclusively about this, but basically go and list all your debts, find the most expensive one in terms of interest you're actually paying on the debt, and pay that one first. When you've repaid that highest interest portion, moves to the next one, and so on until you've cleared the whole lot. Now that we've done all the essential spending and things that allow us to live, covered our debt situation, we get to some slightly better things which actually look forward a little bit rather than solving issues that you've built up from the past. And the first out of the next lot at number 7 is building a rainy day fund. Now, this is quite important. It's probably much more important than having a savings account, than having anything else like that. This is a separate fund that you have for the situation where you have a massive unpredictable need for expenditure, you find yourself in massive financial turmoil, you're suddenly needing to spend money on something that you never anticipated, or you find yourself out of work and suddenly you need 1, 2, 3 or more months worth of money just to get you by. Now this pot of money is a little bit different to some of the ones we're going to be covering a bit later, and essentially the most important thing is that this is immediately accessible. It isn't tied up somewhere, you don't have to wait several days for it to turn up. It's not something where you have to sell shares and incur a bunch of fees to get the money out. By all means, if you can put it into an account that pays some form of interest, that is a good thing. But generally speaking, you're best off putting it into a separate bank account or some kind of very easy fast access savings account where it is protected by the bank guarantee scheme, where you are able to immediately access it, but don't mix it with the regular everyday money and don't keep it in the same account that you use for everything else, because that will kind of go against the whole rainy day fund being separate to your core money principle. Now that you've built up a little nest egg, the next priority in terms of the money distributing the moment your paycheck lands in your bank account is investments. And here there's a myriad of different options, but generally speaking, you should prioritize it using the following 3. Now, this is by no means, I mentioned it earlier, any kind of financial advice. This is just a personal opinion based on years of experience in the industry. And generally speaking, your options are: number 1, go and look out for index funds and put at least a hefty proportion of your investments into something where the return is not as high as it potentially could be, but there is considerably less risk, there's way less volatility, and you stand considerably lower chances of losing the whole lot. Go and find a good index fund that you want to follow and invest money in that. The next best thing after that is stocks, and you can pick several different stocks. Again, diversity is pretty important rather than putting all your money into the one thing. I'm not going to be talking in any depth about this right now because there's a whole separate topic, and generally speaking, over the long term, this is where the best value is to be had in terms of investing your own personal money. At number 3, and if you fancy diversifying your investments a little further, there's a whole series of various alternative investments depending on your tolerance for risk and your acceptance of the volatility. There's lots of different options here. There's peer-to-peer lending, there's investing in startups through one of the crowdfunding sources, there's cryptocurrency, there's a million different things. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Again, we're not going to go into details, but those are the kind of the 3 streams that you're probably going to be considering. Go and invest them in that order and prioritizing and weighting towards the ones earlier on after you've done everything else. Now we've got all the way to number 9, and this is the bit where we're going to be spending money on the nice to haves. And this might come as a surprise to you in terms of priorities, but the other things are genuinely more important. So when you're trying to decide what you're going to do with your money, just have a think, just take a step back and have a think about what's actually important and what is not so important. So in the nice to haves category, we have things like your Sky subscription, your Netflix subscription, your Spotify subscription, your clothes shopping, your basic social spend, so things like just being able to spend some time with some of your friends. All of those kind of things come at this stage, after you've done the rainy day fund, invested a portion of your money, repaid your debts, and done all those other things. And the problem is a lot of people will go and begin spending money on this without any kind of knowledge of what they want to do with all the other pots. And at the end of the month, you find that you spend all your money on all these things and you have nothing left for anything else, and you move on to the next month and repeat exactly the same process. Last on our list is, unsurprisingly, the fun and entertainment category. So this is the stuff after you've spent all your money and everything else, you've secured your future, you've paid your debts, whatever it is, now you get to spend money on actual fun things. So this is the bit where you might splash a bit of money on going out, you might go and get takeaway, you might go to the cinema, you might go and book a holiday. All of these things come after you've put your money into all the other priorities. You might even go and treat yourself to some kind of luxury goods. I don't know, you might go and buy the latest phone. You probably shouldn't, but maybe you will if you've satisfied yourself that you've done all the other bits up to that point and contributed the right amount towards every other pot. You might go and spend some money on other items that you don't really have a need for, but you kind of want to spend money on. It's up to you. Make sure that you don't get the order wrong here. This category has to come at the end. Too many people, especially younger people, people who are less savvy with their finances, will go and place this category as the first thing that happens after money lands in your current account. So on payday, you're going to go out and splash a load of money on some drinks, buy an expensive dinner and go out with some friends, then go out to a nightclub and bang, you have blown the lot. You have no money for the rest of the month, you are skint until the next paycheck comes in, and you certainly don't have any money to be paying down your debts, to do any kind of investment, to do any form of savings. It is an absolute disaster. So make sure whenever you're considering what you should do, that you just think in your head, what should I do with my money in which order, before you do it. I hope you guys found this useful. If you found some value in this video, please make sure you subscribe so that you can get more videos with content about managing your personal finances, making more of your money, earning more money and keeping more of it. I release videos very frequently every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. If you did like this video, please give us a like. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to push our video to more people and reach more people more quickly. I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.